So in previous videos, I've been an advocate of this really defensive playstyle where you hold back a bunch and you use these low committal pokes to gain information from the opponent and try to win, building a game plan around that. But what I haven't really covered is when do you get to take your turn? When is it your opportunity to push buttons? And I figured that was something that we could talk about today. First, let's just talk about why holding back is so powerful. The reason it's so powerful is because it mitigates most of the heavy damage in the game. So if you are just stand blocking, then you're not getting hit by highs or mids because you're blocking those. If the opponent tries to throw you, you can develop your throw teching ability to be able to react and deal with those. Some throws are true 50-50s, but if we're not talking about King, that's not a common thing. And when it comes to these really slow, like launching lows that are gonna give people full combos, they have such long startup that you should be able to react to them and deal with them in time. So when you're just holding back, once you've developed your ability to throw tech a little bit and the ability to react to those slow lows, the only thing that you're able to get hit by at that point are these fast harassment type of lows, right? And so when you're holding back and your only responsibility is trying to figure out the timing of these fast lows so that you can throw in a low parry there, and the rest of the stuff you're invulnerable to pretty much, that is incredibly powerful. And it takes so much off of your mental stack compared to like every time the opponent approaches trying to guess between whether it's a high or a mid or whether you need to be low parrying or, you know, throw tech or what have you, right? Okay, so holding back is good, but how do I know when to take my turn? So in Tekken, most moves are going to be minus on block. So if I do this, if I do this, if I do this, if I do this, most moves are going to be at least a little bit minus on block. So it's much easier to keep track of the few moves in the game that are plus on block and know, okay, I can't take a turn after those, than it is to try to memorize it any other way. But I'm gonna do you one better. We're not gonna memorize it. We're gonna talk about how you can just visually identify these things. So in Tekken, most characters are going to have a one jab that is +1 on block. So you know, anytime the opponent runs up and just jabs me with their left arm, it's +1 on block. There are exceptions. Jack 1 doesn't have a 10 frame jab. Instead he has like a 10 frame forward 2 or whatever. But for the most part, this is one of the moves that is plus on block and doesn't really have a visual indicator to tell you that it's plus on block. So you just kind of have to know this. When it comes to literally any other button Fang has that's plus on block, you can visually identify by looking at your own character and how they respond to it. So when I do back 3, Kazuya staggers back because the force of blocking it was so much that it takes some time to recover, right? And if you look at the frame data, it's +6, right? It's indicated there. If I do up 2, you see how it forces Kazuya down into a crouch position? It's safe to assume if a move is forcing you into a crouch position, then it's probably plus on block. If I do forward 3, this move also forces the opponent into a crouch position, and it's +8. And you can also notice that each of these moves has this little orange flash. Now, this orange flash does not mean that the move is plus on block. That's not what it means. But frequently it will coincide that if a move is plus on block, it also has some sort of orange flash. So you could try to, it's like, it's cheating, but it's another way that you could kind of look. Hey, editing loops here. Just wanted to clarify, the orange flash is literally communicating that it's a move that does chip damage. So many of the moves that are plus on block also do chip damage. But when the opponent is in heat, I think every move just does chip damage at that point. So relying on the orange flash is no longer going to be a reliable way to tell if something's plus on block or not. So in general, if my opponent were to jab or do one of these moves, then I would need to chill out and respect them. But if they do almost literally anything else on the entire character's move list, I know that it's at least minus enough to be able to take a turn. Now, not all turns are made equal. So just because my opponent did 1-2 and they're -3 on block, doesn't mean that when I block it, I can now go for knee. Because the gap there is still 19 frames. Most moves my opponent can do would beat that. And it implies my opponent knowing that they're minus and also having enough respect for me to not push a button there. Which, you have played Tekken, you know that's not guaranteed. They don't give a fuck about you. There is no respect here. So what I recommend then is when you block something that is not either jab or an obviously plus move, just start throwing out like a jab after. Or, you know, a 1-2 or what have you. Just something really fast that you can respond with that's like 10 frames on startup. Because what it'll do is it'll teach you when it's your turn to start initiating and building some sort of offense, but it'll also teach you when things are punishable, right? So if somebody does a move and it's punishable by like, you know, a 12 frame, a 13 frame, but you don't know that, just doing this will teach you at first, okay, this is punishable at least by a 10 frame move. The next time I block that, maybe I'll do shoulder or, you know, some other move, right? And then by doing this, you can slowly build up over time your understanding of how minus each of your opponent's moves are without necessarily having to go into the training room and memorizing a ton of frame data for every single character in the game, right? This gives you a system where you can just sort of feel that type of thing out and build a knowledge of it over time. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that while I am recommending to do some fast 10 frame thing, there are instances where either a move the opponent does leaves them in a crouched position, or they have enough time to crouch or sidestep or what have you. So if they're responding by doing that a bunch, then you want to start implementing these faster mids every so often in response. And if the solution that they're providing is sidestepping a lot, then usually the answer is just delaying your timing a little bit. But in general, the point that I'm trying to convey here is that the like 5% of moves that you absolutely cannot push a button after are usually visually identifiable, or their jab, and you just have to know. When you're taking your turn, I recommend starting by doing really fast attacks and varying them up depending on if the opponent is crouching or sidestepping a bunch. And then in those instances where you're able to get an actual punish, you can slowly work up your punishment ladder, like from your 10 frame move to your 12 frame move to your 13 frame move, whatever, to figure out exactly how punishable each of these options are, without having to go in and like manually train against each of these characters every single time. That's gonna do it for this one. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.